What's the weirdest intimate interest a significant other had that you just went with because they were hot? Viewer edition. Story 1. I once talked to a guy who had the pregnancy kink, and I listened to him go on and on about it, how he'd like to see my belly growing with his baby, etc. I thought it was weird as hell, and it freaked me out. I thought it was just him, that he was the only man crazy enough to be like that towards someone he was just getting to know. I noped out of that quickly. Then a few years later, I met my husband-to-be, and I knew we were going the distance and that this was the one. We were in bed together, not married, but making love, and he suddenly whispered, "I want to put a baby inside of you. I want you to give me a baby. I've been thinking of it for a while now." And just like that, that's the story of why I had to hurry up and get married. So apparently this is a thing with some men like it is for some women, as mentioned in the story above. As for me, I do like a bit of rough stuff, control, domination done to me, a little force applied, although I'm definitely not protesting or acting like I don't want it. Why? I think it's a bit primal, a bit animalistic, a bit cavemanish, a sort of take what you want when you want it, manly man thing that drives me crazy. Took me a while to get my husband loosened up about being a gentleman, though. Alright, first off, folks, I'm going to say I'm really going to try to be mostly a judgment-free zone here. Everyone's got the thing, and that's fine. I might chuckle and laugh a little bit here and there, I'm sorry, because sometimes things just, I'm not expecting them, and they just strike me as a little funny. Or they're just really not personally for me, and I'm not going to try and completely hide my emotions. But yeah, the just getting to know someone and have them going on about a pregnancy kink seems a little much. So I get that, but hey, I'm glad you and your husband have found a comfortable space to express yourselves. Story 2. My ex was interested in something called belly expansion/inflation, basically using any range of substances and forcing said substances into your intestines until your belly/abdomen begins to appear larger or bloated. Sometimes this can go to some pretty crazy extremes, i.e. looking months pregnant, even doing it on such a regular basis that your intestines get stretched so that you can inflate your belly/abdomen to worryingly large sizes. Walked in on her with a bike pump shoved up her butt, and her belly inflated so much I could see the veins very clearly. Walked out of the room that day, and a day or two later asked her about it and decided she wasn't the one. I've heard of this mentioned on, the community, and I've seen people post, art pics of this thing. I didn't think it was a thing that actual people were capable of doing. It sounds potentially dangerous. So folks, if it's something you're into, at least do some research, talk to a doctor, because you should feel free to explore things that are, safe and, not harmful to others or stuff like that. But yeah, this sounds like it could be potentially pretty dangerous. Story 3. Okay, about Story 6, there is absolutely nothing wrong with being a masochist or into BDSM in a general way. There is neither problem fantasizing about extreme BDSM scenarios. It's more concerning to drag their reluctant partner into such a scenario, even if they're at the non-slapped side, as in BDSM consensuality and good communication are even more crucial than in vanilla intercourse. And in the very particular case of this woman, she needs actual psychological professional help. It's downright some kind of scarification, and she is presenting a physical threat to herself. Story 4. The non-con intimate interest is surprisingly common. I used to have a friends with benefits with it until she dated someone who assumed ignoring the safe word was part of the role play. Unsurprisingly, though, she not only lost the intimate interest, but also turned lesbian. She was bi. We tried getting it once after the event, but I could tell she was uncomfortable, so I stopped. Story 5. She has this kink where she likes to pretend that we aren't dating and she doesn't even know me. We've been keeping it up for years. Whatever makes her happy, I guess. Story 6. My ex was into the whole vampirism thing, biting the neck until blood is spilt and tasting it. She also liked knife/blood play. This is just one that's a little bit much for me. A little roughness, a little, biting, scratching. That can be fun, sure. But oh boy, once actual blood is involved and like knives and stuff, that that kind of gets my skin crawling a little bit. I'm not, and I just, oh boy, you like diseases, stuff like that. Is everything like sterile and safe? Oh boy, I don't know, folks. Be careful. Story 7. My brief indulgence into the BDSM world in my 20s revealed to me a lot of girls who needed specific things to get off. Everything was consensual, I was careful, and I never broke with my limits. The last girl from that era of my life called it quits when she wanted me to do it with another guy while she got off. I don't swing both ways, so I said it's a hard no. We went our separate ways not too long after with no hard feelings. That was certainly a time in my life. Story 8. Well, I guess it's relatively common, but my ex-girlfriend was extremely kinky. She once had me scratching her back, pretty common thing we did, along with biting, spanking, hair pulling, and choking, and I actually found I enjoyed it all as well. The difference was she couldn't get off until like a certain pain threshold was met. I remember one particular time when she was on top riding me, and this is usually when I'd scratch her back. This particular time she leans forward begging me to make her bleed. I did it all right. She was in pure ecstasy and had the best I've ever seen her have. I found it pretty bizarre to watch, but I enjoyed it as well. I guess it's not all that weird considering a big intimate interest of mine was spoiling her that got me going, then everything I loved buying her all stupid crap she rarely used. People are strange. Story 9. I think the weirdest thing that I've heard so far was from a female friend like 12 to 15 years ago where she told me that she likes to be cut with a knife, blood and all included, and she was really cute and gorgeous, and all I could think of was, how did this happen? Seeing her, one could get the idea that she was on the wilder side, but not that wild. Story 10. The most extreme thing my wife and I do is our foot intimate interest, and the fact that we use intercourse as a dopamine release so I can deal with the chronic pain issue as I have. Sure. We've all like to use a little excuse like, when it actually, it's a better pain reliever than aspirin or Tylenol, so maybe we should just deal with this pain nature's way. Story 11. Knew someone that dated a guy with a decapitation intimate interest. He would roleplay cutting her head off, and then she'd just have to lie there perfectly still while he did his thing. She had a cheating intimate interest, but not like in a roleplay way. She would actually cheat on him. Their relationship was incredibly toxic, but thankfully they broke up before anything really bad happened. It was a nasty breakup, though. Story 12. My ex liked to fart during intimacy. At first I thought she was just trying to be funny and get a reaction out of me. She later revealed it was an intimate interest. I wasn't really into it, but oddly enough it didn't bother me because her farts actually smelled surprisingly good. Kinda smelled like fruity perfume. I cannot believe that I just said that on the internet. Okay. Story 13. I knew a girl who pushed her boyfriend with BDSM stuff. He slowly got used to it, so she'd encourage him to take it further with her. Then he got arrested. He had beat the hell out of her, and she called the cops. After he was convicted, I was not part of the trial in any way. She confided in me that she kept egging him on, telling him to hit her more, hit her harder, etc. Told me it was the best she ever had, and told me that the whole BDSM thing was originally just a ruse to get real bruises people would notice over time to get him arrested. Turns out she was into someone else who wasn't a cheater, so just going for it was out of the picture, and she was too much of a coward to just break up with him. Figured that, hey, if she just got him arrested, that could end their relationship. The fact that it turned out she actually got off to it was just icing on the cake, as it were. His lawyers managed to get a hold of her texts where she talked to him about hitting her harder and BDSM content that she was looking up to find safe ways to take a beating. Blew away her claims that it was never consensual, so he got acquitted, thankfully. I, on the other hand, told the guy she was into about what she did after she was ready for him to make a pass at her, so he'd know the crap show he was walking into and cut her out of my life entirely. Effing psycho. Closest thing I have to offer for a story on this subject matter, all of my more questionable kinks. I tend to feel they work better in Fantasyland than reality, and without specifics, it isn't wrong to say that they can not only be easily be dialed up to extremes, but often are, so they can go from hot to I'm not so sure to what the hell are you doing, or just nasty way too fast. So I'm content to be much more vanilla in real life. Because of that, I really got nothing for this one. Actually, I know of one more weird kink, but the people were just acquaintances, so I don't know if anything ever came of it. Lesbian couple, neither ever with a guy in any way. Not bisexual in the slightest, but one of them had a kink I was convinced was made up before encountering it in the wild. With rare exceptions, she didn't like men, didn't trust men, found men physically repulsive, etc. Not just a lesbian, but within spitting distance of not just man-hatred, but the kind of extreme man-hatred, and considers all heterosexual intercourse to be a form of R. And what she really wanted to experience was for her girlfriend to find the right guy, someone she trusted, who would do the deed without taking things too far, to snatch her up / break into their apartment and R her. She explicitly wanted to start as a real R, or real for her, as she said, whatever that means, only for her to realize at some point that her girlfriend was watching and fingering herself, at which point she'd know she was safe and just give herself up to being used brutally. She envisioned she'd get the best of her life from this experience. Worried, I talked to her girlfriend about it later, who just told me, I know about her kinks, but you don't have to worry, I won't ever do that to her. Also comforted me by saying, if she told you about it, you don't have to worry because it means she wouldn't have wanted me to pick you. Explained that what she meant by that was that I was one of the rare guys her girlfriend liked as a friend, and she knew I'd never do something like that, so I was just a confidant in a drunken moment and not being propositioned for a creepy experience. So that's good, I suppose. They moved out a few months later, and I never saw / heard from them again. Alright, folks. I know, thankfully, after the last video, there were comments, and even comments we've had here that talk about how when you're getting into, like, BDSM and stuff that involves, pain and those kind of things, trust and consent are so important. And I do know that people like to experiment with, there's that last story about, like, the idea of kind of an assault kink. And I think, I'm not a therapist, I don't know for sure, but I think it can be okay exploring and expressing that. But boy, having a partner like, oh, I want it sprung on me and I don't want to know that this is something we're doing until it's happened, like, that feels so dangerous. So I just really do be careful when you're exploring these things that can be physically or mentally dangerous. You really need just open, honest communication at all times, and maybe sometimes check in with someone professional. Story 14. My last girlfriend from 12 years ago had an obsession with wet skin. She had a spray bottle next to the bed and would take my shirt off and spray me all over, then lick the water off. Story 15. I don't know what it is about me that attracts bat crap crazy insane men, but a lot of them get extremely comfortable with sharing their deepest, darkest, intimate interests with me. I think the most specific and horrifying fantasy I've ever been told was a friends with benefit desire to have the choice between murdering 2 people. He described the space he goes to in his mind where he's trying to get off. It's a windowless dark room with nothing in it except him and 2 people bound to chairs. He can use any method he wants, and he can't climax until he chooses which one to spare. I never asked who would be in the chairs. I felt like I'd regret asking. Story 16. Met a girl on Plenty of Fish. We started to get more intimate, and she would push me away. She did this more than 3 times, so I stopped. It was really weird because we would get really close to getting serious, and she would push me away or resist. After the 3rd time, I stopped trying. She got mad and left. That was her thing, resisting and struggling. Not a great thing to try without giving someone a heads up. I never tried to meet up with her again. It was too weird for me. Story 17. Honestly, I think kinks are just contagious. My first girlfriend was wild and brought me out of my vanilla shell. She had collars, leashes, gags, you effing name it. And I was really into it. Now I'm the one going into relationships with a laundry list of weird kinks that I can circle/cross off when I start relationships. Hey, sometimes you don't realize that you're into something until you meet the right person or just give it a try. There are things that I didn't realize that I think are pretty dang fun, but, the right person got me to give it a go, and it was fun. I'm not going to tell you all what it is. No. Story 18. Dated a dude who was way more into Legend of Zelda than I am, like beyond cosplay obsessed with the games. Even made me a custom Zelda dress for a couple's costume contest. We lost to 2 Yoshis. I'm not even mad, as the Yoshi suits were epic. To the point I had to refer to him in bed as Link, or the hero of Hyrule. Wound up telling him, "Hey, listen, this isn't working out, Link. I'm sorry, but I think we need to see other people. I'm heading out. Good luck finding your Zelda, but I'm not her." Aside from that, not a bad dude, but the Zelda thing was a bit much. Hey, big props for working in the "hey, listen" reference, but I feel like he could have gone even more. Come on. Did he talk about his master sword? Did you have to play on his ocarina? I don't know. Oh, man. Tears of the Kingdom's pretty fun. Bet that brought back some memories. Story 19. Had a clearly underaged girl on Omegle once who begged a dude to kidnap her and then unasked added her full address. Literally, to a complete stranger she just met 5 minutes ago. That's absolutely crazy and dangerous as F. Story 20. For me, I don't know if this really counts as weird, but when it comes to the opposite gender, I'm pretty much a total sub and to be a total pet. And for the whole experience, what I like to have happen to me is to be teased and edged, especially if it's anal, and maybe my partner may consider riding me as a reward. Just wish it was easy to find someone like that, though. Story 21. I had a girlfriend who loved armpits. No session was complete without her kissing, licking, and pit hair pulling my armpits. She would get extra hot if I didn't shower after running or working out. She was cool, but a strange one. This is pretty mild compared to a lot on the video, but I am and enjoy vanilla as vanilla can get. Story 22. One weird kink I've noticed with several of my exes is a lot of girls seem to want you to choke them in the bedroom. That always makes me nervous because I don't want to leave a mark on someone and have her make up stories about it later, but I guess there are weirder kinks out there. Story 23. Nothing against kinks and BDSM, but someone desiring to be physically hurt and treated actually bad could be a red flag and a cry for help. As a coping mechanism, some people, especially women with abusive pasts, could potentially rely roughness and pain in their intimate lives as a result of it being all they know or having the mentality of, well, I wanted to be treated like that. It's really sad, but the mind does quite many things that seem paradoxical to cope and deal with trauma. Be responsible in caring for your partner and keep an eye out for these things, especially if abuse was part of their past. Trauma can stick around for years and be very hard to pinpoint. But if it's just a genuine fetish that is mentally and physically doing no one no real harm and not perpetuating any unhealthy cycles or mentalities, F yeah, have at it. Yeah, honestly, this comment makes a lot of sense. I am not a professional in these regards. I really, really like to make that clear. And any advice that I give, take it for what you will, but do always seek out professional help. And, like I just said, these kind of things require a lot of trust, a lot of communication. And sometimes, yeah, if you are concerned that you're seeing red flags and stuff, there needs to be communication there too. That person might want to, explore something with a therapist. Who knows? But the best I can say is just be safe and communicate, folks. Story 24. My intimate interest is forced feminization. I'm male. Anyway, I find it quite exciting, and there's quite a bit of a humiliation aspect to it as well. My ex would go along with it and put makeup on me and buy me outfits to put me in like I was a dress-up doll. Then she would parade me around town with a vibrating butt plug in my butt, a gag in my mouth, and a leash around my neck. Loved every second of it. I was lucky I never got cuffed to a pole and left for people to come have their way with me, as she would threaten that often if I was misbehaving. Good times, good times. Story 25. Consensual slapping, biting, hair pulling is kind of fun, to be honest. It's not an all-the-time thing, not even half, but you bust it out every once in a blue moon and drive each other crazy doing it. Edit, doing it lightly, not trying to actually maim the other. Story 26. My kinkiest ex was into water sports and scat play. If you don't know what those are, I don't recommend looking it up, you sweet innocent child. After a few sessions, I told her I wasn't comfortable with it, and we amicably broke up shortly afterward. To this day, I've never told anyone but my eventual wife, only because she insisted we need to know what we've both tried, and we're aware of what we don't enjoy. Story 27. My first serious boyfriend was 10 years older than me, and we started dating when I was straight out of high school. He loved that I had gone to a Catholic girls' school and wanted me to wear my uniform. Being young and naive, I went along with it. He also wanted me to pretend he was having his way with me against my will. I really should have called the cops on that creep. Story 28. Had a girlfriend that worked in a high-end retail clothing store. She loved the backdoor action and always wanted me to finish inside. She said she loved the feeling of me seeping out of her while she was helping all the rich, bored women. She would call me all hot and bothered during the workday. Don't ask, I could not tell you why. I see nothing wrong with any of that. Yeah, you know what, folks? Yeah, it's just, I think there's something about there being stuff in public. It's taboo. There's something very, very naughty that no one else is aware of, but they are. And there are different ways that can play out. As long as you're doing it in a safe way that's also respectful of people around you, like, don't do stuff that you could possibly be exposed to someone or expose them to something. Like, respect others around you, but that kind of stuff, I don't know, it can be exciting. Story 29. He had a fantasy of assault, so we made a list of rules, said a few safe words, taped them on the wall next to the bed. He followed the rules. We added and removed stuff based on how we felt like, and I got no regrets since he asked my consent before trying anything on Wildside and stopped the second I pulled consent back. Story 30. Not my partner's, mine, but still relevant. My kink is R/being tied up. First off, I have not R'd anyone, and when I say R, I mean I want to be R'd with a trusted partner. I found this when I had a hard kidnapping phase and when I found a pair of handcuffs in my sister's room and almost got myself stuck. Story 31. A few years ago, I had an ex who loved getting off over the thought of effing a household object, a lampshade, etc. For the lampshade, the idea was that he'd want me to explain what end he'd F and what would happen when he O'd. It's quite difficult to explain, but it was something like an object that had no other end. I'd have to explain what would happen to that object in order for him to do it. Really weird. Story 32. My girlfriend is a Cuban American. She insists that whenever we get it on, anything and everything we say, we both have to say in Spanish. She was born here, speaks English better than I do, and doesn't have an accent, so I didn't know where this was coming from. I figured she was living out a fantasy. Later, I realized this is just her way of incentivizing me to learn Spanish. Hell of a way to tutor someone. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. So this is how you learn a new language. Man, oh man. Oh. Story 33. Based on psychiatry, this is reenacting childhood trauma to give oneself a feeling of controlling it. The thing that's terrifying us in childhood became major sources of arousal as adults. Story 34. Not an significant other, but a crush had a thigh-high fetish. I turned up at his house in shorts and thigh-highs. He told me I hadn't done it right and that I should have worn a miniskirt. Next time I will, Damien. I swear I will. Story 35. The forced, intimate, and abuse roleplay stuff would get nixed with extreme prejudice by me. Hell, in today's post-Me Too world, that is just asking for a S-offender record and prison time. Story 36. Dated a girl and didn't sleep with her. Remained friends, then one night we got drunk and ended up actually sleeping together. At the point just after she hit climax, she said I must now pee in her while I'm still aroused. Didn't know she had that fetish till that night. Had known her for many years before then. Story 37. In my experience, women are much more kinky than guys. Every woman I've ever been with has wanted to be tied up or slapped or spanked, and in one case, she was into watching adult entertainment where the woman is strapped to these awful machines with ball gags in their mouth, etc., and they end up red raw from spanking and effing and covered in spit, sweat, and other bodily fluids. I'm really not into any of that stuff, so I'll do some firm holding of her wrists, being rougher, and some light slapping, but I'd rather not be doing any of that stuff. Okay, so in your comment, you're not telling me, what your full preference is and everything, but I do have to laugh for something like this where you're like, well, in my experience, women are much kinkier than guys. How many guys have you been with? Because let me tell you, straight guys don't tend to share all of their awkward little kinks with each other when they're just hanging around chatting. And if you think they do, no, they don't. They really don't. Story 38. I was with a woman in my early 20s, and she was 9 years older than me. She loved it rough, biting, pinching, very rough intercourse, but she specifically loved being spanked very hard. She loved paddles, whips, and almost everything in between. One time I spanked her so long and hard that I could feel the heat through her jeans the next day. She would love it when she had trouble sitting the next day. I won't lie, I was pretty into it, especially because she was able to just from being spanked and nothing else. It was pretty hot. Story 39. My ex, for whatever reason, really likes skeletons. She also liked big baggy clothes like hoodies. The two were different fetishes, but she got us both giant onesies with a design made to look like a skeleton. I've never had to put in so little effort in the bedroom. Gotta say though, holy crap, did it get hot in those things. Spooky, scary skeletons send shivers up my spine. Story 40. I was on the fence about sharing this, but what the hell. Had a girl who was hot as hell, a straight 10, who had a spit fetish also. She wanted me to spit in her mouth while doing it rough, and she liked to spit in mine and other places as well. She also liked to be thrashed around, hair pulling, hard spanking, slammed up against walls, doors, on the floor, on the bed. She just liked to be manhandled aggressively. It was actually a lot of hard work and really tiring, LOL. We didn't last very long. She was kind of crazy. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.